Welcome back, everyone, to BBB Sharing. I'm Evie, Director of Ignite, sparked by BBB. We are here in the Ignite podcast studio with our President and CEO, Barry Moore. He doesn't like that title, but I always address him that way because that is what he is.
I like it. It's just, it's overpowering.
Barry promised he was going to be quiet this podcast, so I need you guys to keep track of how many times he does.
I did not promise anything that I can't live up to.
But today we have a special guest. Do you go by Bob or Robert?
Bob.
Bob. So today we have Bob Ramsey. Barry talked about you. I think 4 or 5 times he brought you up in his office. And I had to remind myself, I was like, who's he talking about again? And then I realized he was like, this guy is older than me and he's more fit. I mean, he can lift me up over his head. And I'm like, wow, I got to meet this guy. Is it true? Can you lift Barry over your head?
In my dreams.
So tell me, Bob, tell me about yourself. What's your story?
I ended up in Richmond as sharing my best hobby, which is studying success and successful people. The original CEO of the retail merchants was a fellow named Jeff Smith, and Jeff drove up to Richmond or up to Washington D.C., where I was living and working with nonprofits, to study to get our CAE, Certified Association Exec, which is the epitome or the highest honor you get of being an association exec. And in the conversation I had with him a couple of times, I just shared with him my hobby of studying successful people. And we both sat for the exam. We passed. And about a year later, he calls me. He said, "Are you still doing that talk about success?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Would you come and do that in Richmond?" Well, I didn't know where Richmond was. I had never been to Richmond, but he put me up in the luxurious John Marshall. So I came down, and what was interesting about it was I went to the retail merchant's office and to see his setup. And when I went in, his receptionist said his assistant will come out and get me. And she came out and took me to Jeff's office. And the first thing, when Jeff closed the door and we started to talk, I said, "Who was that?" That woman now is my wife.
How about that?
And the other part of this chat was that I would, the items of success, the number one item is they have good self-esteem. If you're successful, you're pretty confident and you have good self-esteem. So I would wear a Superman T-shirt under my 3-piece suit back in that day. And it's not unusual for when a speaker's introduced to take their jacket off, but it's a little unusual when you take your tie off. Maybe you take your shirt off. And people ask me if I still do it, and I said, no, everything's kind of moved a little bit. I have to hold my stomach in. But I literally married her. And until Jeff passed, every time he would see me, I can't say it on the air, but what he would call me. But it was because I stole his best assistant.
Got it. Understandable.
That's amazing. So you said you love studying successful people, and one of the things that I've talked about on here with quite a few people that I've met through Barry is I tell them all the time, you're an average of who you hang out with. And I tell my little brother, because he struggles with finding his group, I say you should be around people that are more successful than you. Not to mooch off of them or to be a straggler behind them, but to learn from them. There's a reason that they are successful, and they are there for a reason. You should learn from what they do. What is the key to their success? And I think studying successful people, we let our insecurities get the best of us sometimes, and we don't want to be around people that are, what in our mind, better than us. But you have to, because that's how you grow and that's how you learn, by studying success. So I agree with you. I think that's amazing.
What I call that is the Bumblebee Theory. So aerodynamically, those little wings can't support that big body. But nobody told the bumblebee. So when I had an opportunity one time to speak to a parochial school at their commencement, I shared 3 points. Number one, I said, just show up. And I used the example of when my son was 16, he said, Dad, I want to do a race with you. I said, okay. So Saturday morning comes, we sign up for the police league downtown Richmond. And he goes, oh, Dad, I don't want to get up and go run. I said, Taylor, we've paid. Let's go get our T-shirts. We don't have to run. So we get there. And I said, we're here. Let's run. So at the end of the race, he's the only 16-year-old boy that ran. He won.
Wow.
So he gets called up on stage. He gets a trophy. And he goes, I said to him, so Taylor, what's the message? Oh, I know, Dad. Just show up. So that I found one of the most successful things in life is you just show up, and you show up early. Second thing was everybody has a picture of themselves, what they look like in the future. I was an example of that. I was following my dad's advice when I went to college. He said, I don't know what I want to do. He said, well, you're pretty good at sports. Why don't you become a gym teacher or phys ed? I said, okay. But by my sophomore year in college, my vision of myself wasn't in shorts and a T-shirt with a whistle. It was always in a suit. So at the time, the Navy was recruiting pilots, and Vietnam was hot and heavy. So that's what I signed up for, and I got accepted. So upon graduation, I went to Pensacola, got a commission, and started flying for the Navy. So that was the value of the image of what you had. And the last one was the Bumblebee Theory that I shared with you. And that's everybody will try and tell you what you should do, and you have to be careful with that. You have to listen to more yourself. And like you're talking about your brother, yeah, that's key.
So you talked to us a little bit about the 3 H's. So if you highlight them real quickly, what are they? So then we got to talk about Bob Taylor after this.
So now that I'm retired,
Yeah.
I'm focusing on 3 words: health, happiness, and what's the other one?
Helping.
Helping. And as you get older, your health becomes everything, because if you can't move, you can't participate. So that's critical. We all know what to do, we just don't do it. So fortunately, having been somewhat coordinated, I was able to do some things. I picked up playing pickleball and enjoy that. My wife and I do a lot of walking, and I think walking now has become a much improved, much more focused exercise. Short walks, fast walks, whatever. And there's 3-for-1s, what I like to call. So we get to talk, we get to be fit, and we get to enjoy the outside. So that's the health part of it. The helping is do some kind of volunteer, maybe. Depending on what your situation is. I've been an 18-year volunteer with Henrico Police Motorist Assistance, and it's just a blast. The police need help the biggest example is if you are disabled in the county and a police officer comes behind you and turns their blue lights on, they have to stay there until it's resolved. If we're working and we come up with our police car with yellow lights, then we'll stay. So we're professional waiters. We wait.
It's a good job for you. I bet you talk while you're there. I just have a feeling.
Well, that's pretty cool. So it's helping, health, and then happiness, and that's sort of the end result. The toughest thing about retirement was, if you enjoy what you're doing, when do you end it? And that was, I don't know that I ever will officially retire.
I don't believe you will.
I don't
You
think
will always be
my
making
dad
a
will
difference.
Never retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I don't think mentally and physically his body could handle not doing what he does every single day.
Yeah. He stays fit doing it too. And Bob Ramsey, I mean, you're everywhere. And we met a couple connecting dots, and I introduced you in the office real quickly. So I like to just say it real quick. Your dad was president and CEO of the Better Business Bureau in Cleveland. When we connected that dot, here I've known you for years. I never dreamed God would put me in this job role. And here I sit, and we went to breakfast, and you told me that. That blew me away. So you have an idea of what we do, and you know how to spell BBB, which makes it special to my heart. You can spell BBB like GMC, and that's how I had BMW and all those great jobs. But I met you where?
X-Team Fitness.
Nope. Auto Dealers Association.
Oh, yeah. Wait, yeah.
See?
Yeah.
So we met there, and you were, I mean, that team is incredible. I mean, 100%. Everybody I ever met with Team VADA, Virginia Auto Dealers Association, were professionals and just people you loved to be around, right? And you were a big part of that. But then you introduced me to X-Team.
Bob
Correct.
Taylor.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, it all started with an outdoor boot camp. And you just can't imagine how, when you're talking to people, that it's freezing cold outside, it's pouring down rain or it's snowing, and you're doing push-ups or you're doing sit-ups. And you hate it when you have to move from where you were doing sit-ups because you've warmed the mud under your back. Now that's crazy.
It's more than the same.
When I traded a car that I had from doing all those years of outdoor boot camp, it was trashed inside. As much as I could try to keep it clean, and my wife wouldn't even let me in the house. Hopefully, no one looked in the windows in our garage, but that's where I always got. She would not let me in the house.
I had to do the same stuff. Yeah, Mary Lou, I had it strip in the garage. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But Bob Taylor is a unique fitness instructor. I did it with him for probably 17 or 18 years, and it's really, really a good program. He's changed lives of a lot of people.
Thousands of people.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe that for Evie and you and your helping and your happiness and health being part of Ignite in the future in 2025, I believe you're going to be a voice because the mental health crisis is really bad here, everywhere. I mean, our folks are breaking down, but maybe health can bring happiness, maybe just a little bit. And you wanted me to help Bob with advertising. I'll never forget this. I was at the car dealership and I had to showcase Richmond, and you wanted me to help, if I could anyway, get Bob to learn how to advertise and market. And where did we meet? Brickhouse Diner. I'll never forget it. Where did I meet Evie? Brickhouse Diner. How about that? So a lot of good things happen at the Brickhouse Diner, other than just great food. It's more than family, right? So you got me introduced to Bob Taylor, and I was moving to Nashville. You guys didn't know it. And you guys were like, oh, come on out, Barry. And I was like, not happening. I was 50 years old. And it was time for me to just pretend I used to be in great shape. And it was a pretend. And I could barely breathe probably. And then I went to Nashville and I came back. And the first thing I did, we talked. And you got me to come to X-Team. And for 1 year, it changed my life. My mental outlook, my stress at work, everything got taken care of. So today I can't do those workouts, or I don't want to do those workouts, but I do what you say. I walk, and I walk with my wife, and it's some of the best time that I ever could imagine is those walks with the dog and her and just conversation. So what do you think about the mental health? You met thousands of people at X-Team. We all had the black T-shirts. We met some wonderful people, but we dealt with people that were hurting inside also. But it seemed like I thought the best of them came out during that 1 hour, 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. How about you? Do you agree with that?
Well, you're definitely...
It's a layup question, so I know you do.
Of course. But the thing that I like to talk about today is that no matter who you meet, pay attention to them, make them feel special. You'd mentioned that when we were out doing motorist assistance and there was a call over the air for an unconscious person, and we were first on the scene. And from my EMS days, I knew to kind of get down to the level of the person who was sort of sitting on the curb, and then started talking with him and making sure that he was oriented and awake and alert. And he wasn't alert, but he was breathing, and it was interesting just just to recognize him, give him my full attention. And it's also interesting in the days of nonprofit where I managed hotels and restaurants that I always found and taught when I was teaching conference planning at VCU and UVA that you treat everybody you meet along the way the same. Because if in a large meeting something's not set up right, the general manager or the salesperson that you talk to, this is 5 o'clock in the morning, and they don't know, they're not even out of bed yet. And how do you get things done? You be nice to everybody you meet along the way, and you show them special attention. It drives my kids crazy. Dad, you talk to everybody, but that's what you do.
Your wife is so not lucky. That's a terrible way to talk about our spouses, but it is luck. I mean, it really is a plan, and I'm sure you're just as lucky if you want to say that. But our kids, your kids, have a special dad, and you connected with everybody. You connected with me when you were at VADA. You were the photographer. You were the greeter. You were the worker bee because those 25-year-olds couldn't do what you were doing. You were running circles around them, and I didn't realize why, because the fit you were in and the mental health, and because somewhere along the line, your family taught you a great gift, and that was to make everybody feel special. And that's who you are. So I'll let Evie wrap it up. We're at 16 minutes, so you did wonderful, because normally it takes about 10 minutes to get a story out. And you did not wander, right? You did great.
Not at all.
So
it was awesome.
I hope your family's listening to this someday, and they know you did. You're an amazing podcaster, right?
You are.
Yeah,
I hope to get you in here for a Spark conversation one day, because mental health and physical fitness go hand in hand more often than people realize. And a real quick note, there was a study done that a lot of the major cancers that people tend to get, they have a better success rate of survival when they work out every single day than if they just moped around at home. Because working out, and I don't even like to say working out because people always have such a negative connotation with it. They're like, well, I don't do cardio and I don't do this. That doesn't mean that. That's not what working out is. Working out is physically moving your body so that you're out of the house and your mind is preoccupied with getting those dopamine levels back up. Very scientific way of saying it, but it's true.
Great job.
And I think that people should come and listen to you speak about that, because your 3 H's in and of themselves are really important and have a lot to do with physical fitness. And so many kids nowadays are so preoccupied with being on their phones that they don't even know what's going on in their front yard anymore. And I can say I did play in my front yard for quite a long time. I can.
I see, you don't know this, but I really believe that Bob Taylor, Bob Ramsey, and Chris Lindsay would be 3 great speakers and presenters at our next year's one of our events.
2025.
And Chris is Chief Operating Officer. He's helped us at the Department of Health. He's provided us a couple great speakers, and it all started at Virginia Auto Dealers, again with him. So anyway, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Bob, for coming in. We kind of roped you in here.
We did.
Without telling you, kind of shepherded you in here, but you did a great job. Thank you so much. And Barry, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Abby.
Everyone that's watching on YouTube, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe on BBB Central VA, and follow us on Spotify at BBB Sharing. Thank you.